Here with us today, former member of Congress, Chief of Staff to President Barack Obama, Ambassador to Japan, Mayor of Chicago, father of three, Rahm Emanuel. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
10 questions with Rahm Emanuel. Number one, let's start with Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. What should people know about it, and how should Democrats be talking about this bill in the coming months and years?
One is, I would frame it very quickly as tax cuts for the wealthy and healthcare cuts for the many. And I would make it about healthcare mainly because while Medicaid is the lion's share, it doesn't happen for a while. Not everybody's on Medicaid. And there's more than just Medicaid. There's healthcare cuts. And then to fill that down, I would have a portrait shot of everybody that was at Donald Trump's inaugural and their net worth below them.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of the podium, I would have 40 children and say these 40, and mainly because 4 out of 10 children are on Medicaid for healthcare, want to see their pediatrician, and now they're going to be stopped. And these guys are going to get a tax cut. In that same vein, I would start to keep a tally of hospitals, like one closed in Nebraska the other day, if there's one in Southern Illinois, and start keeping a national list of the strain and stress on the healthcare system as it starts to roll in. There was an article the other day caught my attention, and is that the reduction in opiate deaths that we've seen in Ohio, where you're from, and throughout the country, but hardest hit in rural areas. One of the causes for the reductions is no doubt the funding inside Medicaid and the treatment dollars. And I would go at that.
And I think, the first piece is they cut healthcare for 17 million Americans to pay for tax cuts for the wealthiest people in the country, right? That is the overarching message.
Yeah. So without a doubt, and I would even say this, and I've said it this morning to a couple senators, the weekend that you were debating this, Jeff Bezos was having a wedding. It was in the news. And I just said, there's $50 million being spent on a wedding, and that could provide health care for 52,000 children. This is crazy. And that was, you would have had it in real time, put these two events, because for good or for bad or for ill, his wedding was a dominant news item. And he's going to get, over 10 years, a $50 million, the equivalent to what he paid on his wedding, he's going to get in tax cuts. And these 5,000, 52,000, whatever the number is, children won't see their pediatrician. And I think that would have used a current event to flip and illustrate. And again, part of it is words, part of it is pictures that tells the story of the injustice here.
I think that's right. I think sort of illustrating these two worlds, right?
Right.
I think I mentioned this the last time we were together, which was that when I saw, Bezos send his now wife after a $50 million wedding, and Katy Perry into space.
Right.
My first thought was, that's where my money's going, right? Like that's our money.
Yeah.
And it's why the economy is fundamentally broken for so many people, because we see this wealth and power shifted away from the vast majority of Americans to these few people. They have it all, and this bill just exacerbates that. Number two, if you were president, which Fox News host would you pick to run the defense? This is you were chief of staff to Barack Obama.
Yeah. Let me just be really clear.
Yeah.
If you had Fox News, I have nothing against Fox News, but that would not be what I would put on my resume to get in front of me for the Defense Department or any other department.
This was the more serious question I was going to ask you about this. Hegseth,
right.
The story is that he paused weapons shipment to Ukraine unbeknownst to the White House. As a former chief of staff, how big of a deal is that?
Well, look, I mean, you had certain things, in all fairness, if we were being honest on the show, and I like him a lot, so I want to be very clear. Secretary Austin did not tell the White House about certain health, and I understand his privacy, et cetera. So it is a big deal, both of those, but Hegseth is a big deal, and he claims he didn't know, and if that's true, based on both the signal piece, et cetera, to me, as a former chief of staff, but also senior advisor to President Clinton, it means that the process for a policy decision is not working. And this is being basically the president decided not to have a national security council. He doesn't have a director. He has a secretary of state who moonlights as a NSC. And so this actually is a reflection of that breakdown that is conscious.
The real life implications are huge. I mean, we don't know exactly what happened.
We'll never know.
We'll never know. But
Just like Signal, you don't know what we will never know.
yeah,
But we know what. But your fears are well founded and well grounded.
yeah. All right, number three. Given the flood the zone media
Yeah.
strategy, Trump and Bannon, how should Democrats sort of manage the day to day of Trump's chaos? I mean, what's your advice?
So my advice is you have to be selective. One, that's not an insight, but you don't chase every shiny bauble. And a lot of what they're doing is the flood the zone. But anything that fulfills the narrative of, in my view, both the corruption, the chaos, and the cruelty
Yeah,
metaphor. So from the healthcare perspective, that
correct.
goes in the cruelty, the corruption, not the way Aspen and Brookings Institute, but the corruption that the powerful got their way and the system is set up for the powerful to get well fed. That is the corruption. So that to me is, if you think that can fit in there, then advance it. If you can't fit it and it doesn't really work, ignore it. It was
Yeah.
not meant to be talked about.
All right, number four. I saw today, headline today, measles cases hit record high. That's not good, right? It's
You didn't ask me to give you the moral judgment that measles being the highest in 33 years is not good. No, that is not good.
a highly
No, it's not. It's not good. It's a direct outcome. And the only thing I would say about this, it was all predictable and all unnecessary. And this is the first of many.
Yeah, and I think this falls into your category of corruption, chaos, cruelty. Like
Yeah.
this is the result of unserious people who are undermining government, which is there in part to mitigate risk and keep us safe. And when they tear that down, we
Yeah.
are less safe.
Well, first of all, look, Texas has a natural disaster. Maybe abetted by some, obviously, where the government failed. We don't know, and maybe locally, nationally, et cetera. We don't know yet, but it has a natural disaster.
Yeah,
This is a man-made disaster.
yeah,
We could have dealt with, we don't need a measles outbreak anywhere in the country, and definitely, Texas doesn't need it right now. You already have a system overwhelmed, even though it's one part of the state. This is crazy. One is natural. Some things that should have functioned did not, and that has to be in a kind of after action report dealt with. But the measles, this was man-made.
yeah. We ended. I mean, we
Yeah.
ended the outbreak of measles, and it's back. I remember when RFK was nominated, I said something along the lines of, loyalty to Trump shouldn't mean that we all get measles. Number five, look, Trump is clearly a threat to our democracies, attacking the courts, politicizing the DOJ.
Yeah.
He's fired all these watchdogs, floating this third term. But to a lot of voters, it's not affecting their everyday, right? And these institutions aren't top of mind. How do you communicate the urgencies of these threats in a way that resonates with people, or do you focus entirely on finances, schools,
No,
safety?
I would, you fuse them.
Yeah,
And I really, not just from a tactical or strategic, but I also think fundamentally, look, the moment our democracy becomes unstable is exactly simultaneously the same time that the American dream becomes unaffordable.
yeah,
And so if you want to restore confidence in democracy and the institutions that uphold it, restore confidence in the accessibility of the American dream. I mean, Greg, you and I grew up at a time that, at least with the premise that if you worked hard, you can get ahead. That's not true. Today, if you work hard, you're lucky to stay in place. And it's a struggle. People just want a shot and they're getting the shaft.
yeah. And I think you're right, which is that you fuse them together, right? So you don't ignore it because you can't ignore it. You have to fight these things,
Yeah.
but you have to fight it in the context of the American dream.
In my inaugural for my reelection for mayor, Somebody reminded me of this the other day, the woman that was on the school board. I dedicated in 2015 the entire, so a decade ago, the entire speech to the unseen and forgotten men in Chicago. That we shouldn't have a society where we send young boys to prison hoping they become men. And they're not seen, they're not heard. And the biggest thing to me is they have internalized this sense of failure, and it manifests itself in this rage and anger at a system. And they have every right to be angry because they are swimming upstream. And so
Yeah.
we need to create a society and an economic system that gives them a shot and gives them a chance, and it gives them a chance to fulfill what they think is their role for themselves and for the family they want to create. And I think they, unfortunately, they have internalized this. And the truth is, the deck is stacked.
Yeah.
They're at Vegas playing against the house, and it's really not fair.
They will be compelled by a message that says we're going to unstack the deck. Like we know it's rigged. It's rigged against you, and here's how we're going to unrig
Uh,
it.
yes.
Yeah, I think that's right, which is all of these institutions are either helping people get ahead, or they're holding them back, and so defending them has to be done in the context of unrigging this system or
Yeah.
making sure that people can get ahead. All right, number
Uh,
six. Trump wants to do a UFC fight at the White House. If
That
you
would
could,
be good for Ari.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you could pick one new White House event, what would it be?
Eisenhower, Camp David becomes Camp David because of Eisenhower's, it's named after his son, etc. But
Yeah,
he has a big pond there
yeah,
because Eisenhower used to like to fish
yeah.
and cast. Now, I love to fly fish. So I'm thinking of maybe flooding the South's lawn,
And just having
stocking it with cutthroat and browns and rainbow trout, and a single day of fly fishing on the South lawn.
all right, number seven. Let's talk about education. This is a huge topic
Yeah,
for both of us. Recent polling suggests that the two parties are sort of neck and neck in terms of who do voters trust.
yeah,
How did
that's our fault.
how did Democrats lose this issue, and why is it so important to get it back?
There are three great periods of American economic kind of excellence and surge, and one of the few or common things in them is educational accessibility. Land grant colleges under Lincoln undergird what happens in the latter half of the 19th century, universal high school education in the beginning of the 20th century, and the GI Bill. And if you look at basically growth, I mean, there's one common theme. I'm not saying that's exclusive. So education doesn't have to be college. I mean, it can be college. It should be college. There's community college. There's vocational education. And I want to be clear. I mean, the educational qualities out of our armed forces is education. There's everybody coming out of there, nursing, transportation, distribution, logistics, engineering, mechanical. That's an education. I think we should get to what I call TART. T for technology, and AI should become instrumental in our education the way computer science did 20 years ago as a fundamental for high school graduation. A for attendance. We have an post-COVID absentee crisis. We should set a national standard, no child north of 7%.
Yeah,
Social promotion. If you miss north of 7%, you're repeating the class year. R for reading after Mississippi miracle. They took the hardest constituency, and after 10 years, starting in 2010, their educational gains on reading are a national model.
yeah.
And Mississippi deserves recognition and applaud for that and setting a benchmark. And the final T is truth. Is we have to tell parents exactly where their children and their children's school is on national standards, the NAEP scores, on reading and math from every grade. The testing was supposed to be an instrument to improve education, and the testing became not the means but the end. But we've overcorrected and got rid of it. We have a post-COVID crisis where kids are not, where we have graduation rates and kids are missing 20% of the school year. Well, that's a joke. That's a lie. And we should be clear about that. Kids will meet the standards if you support them and help them. And to me, those are the things I would do.
the COVID piece is really important, and you've talked about this a lot, and it has really resonated with me, in part because our kids were upstairs and they both fell behind, and it took us some time to get them back up to speed, and we had the resources to do that. Most families don't, but saying, look, this created, a generation of students who aren't attending, don't attend
Right.
regularly, and or are behind. We can catch them up, but it's going to require this national effort.
As somebody who fought for a longer school day and a longer school year, we have now self-imposed 4-day school weeks. That's crazy. I'm telling you, I was ambassador in Japan. I saw they're not going to less hours.
No. All right. You mentioned your family, 3 kids. They're out of the house now. What's a family activity? What do the Emanuels do when they're together?
Let me say this: if they're out of the house, they're not out of This is a joke because they're really good. They're not out of my wallet. I'll say that they may be out of the house. No, I'm very proud of all of them. Our son is a Navy intel officer.
Nice.
Our middle one's a Navy reservist, and she's going to go to graduate school. And the youngest is really become an expert in national security and climate change in the interfact.
Wow.
And Ghost wrote a book. I'm not allowed to say she co-wrote it. She gets angry, but she
Yeah.
did write it. That said,
Proud dad.
I am very proud. I
Yeah.
am very, very. I can go on. If I start talking, I'll start crying and get choked up. So we're going to go somewhere else. We
What
love
if you guys get together? What do you what's a
a meal.
just a meal?
Just yeah, when I got to Congress, kids were 5, 3, and 2, or 6, 4, and 3 rather. Um, 4 nights a week, dinner. And when I was mayor, we kept that all through chief of staff, mayor, etc.
You kept it through chief of staff.
100%.
Wow.
And this is a couple other things, if I can brag on Amy. Finish your phone call on the front porch. Do not walk into the house with the phone
Yeah.
on.
My wife has given similar feedback, which is no phone calls. Like it just
Right.
if you're on the phone, it just says something to all of us.
Hmm.
And sometimes after I've been in the house for a while, if it's Saturday or something like that, and nobody wants to hang out with me, I've checked in with everyone. No one wants to hang out with me. I'll make
Yeah,
a
that's why you have 2 cats, Greg.
Yeah, that's why I have it. Yeah, and even the cats are like they're running for the hills. I'll make a phone call, and I've gotten into the habit of if I'm on the phone and one of them walks into the room, I immediately say I have to call you back. All right, number 9. So politics at the moment is brutal. I think we can all agree that
Yeah.
this is not fun,
Yeah.
but it remains incredibly important. What's your advice to people right now?
2 things I would say. Let me give you encouragement.
Yeah,
One, post 2024, we've had record turnout of Democrats. So Washington may be beaten up and exhausted, but Democrats are fully caffeinated. You can see it in every primary and every special. They are, and that's a good thing.
yeah.
Number two, when I decided, we don't have to go how back, but when I decided I was going to go into public service and politics, that was an anomaly. I'm amazed at the civic engagement. I actually think one of the great resources untapped is, I don't know how old your kids are. I told you mine are, 28, 26, and 25.
Almost 14 and 16.
But don't you think they're a lot more civically mindful of the world around them and events, not just because you're in public life or I was in public? I'm amazed at my kids' friends. Now, maybe they'd be self-selecting, but I think there's an untapped resource of civic engagement that should be, as I've written about national service, that I think is waiting to be spoken to. I think Democratic voters are fully caffeinated, ready to go, revved up, and ready to show up.
Yeah.
And I think the next generation, while there may be certain things about their attention span we can talk about, et cetera, but that said, I think there's a civic mindedness that is a resource that could be for a public good. And I
Yeah, I
think,
will say about certainly my kids, younger folks who work for me, when they lock in on something, they lock
yeah,
in.
yes.
And I do agree that they have a sense for the world that is different than the way I remember growing up. I don't remember being as
What was the reason? I mean, I can tell my mother's civil rights activity, my dad's public health activity. What was the reason you decided public life?
My parents were teachers. They had the news on all the time. I remember they made a big deal about, a big event. Like I just wrote about this recently. They had me come in and watch the signing ceremony with Clinton and Rabin and Arafat and explain sort of what was happening in a way that led me to think that's a cool job. Not being president, but this idea that you could be part of a group of people working on
Doing
something.
big things.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last question. Um, and this is a New Dems podcast, so it's that audience, right?
Okay.
But as these members approach the sort of path forward, you worked with both Clinton and Obama, the two
Mhm.
Democrats that won a second term.
Yeah.
What is your advice in terms of moving forward, issues, leadership style, just direction in general?
One is there's clearly more unity in our party today than there was when Bill Clinton gets elected.
It's
The
true.
Democrats are, and look, 40 some Democrats voted against the assault weapon ban when I was responsible for passing it over the NRA. You couldn't get 40 Democrats today to oppose the assault weapon. You'd get close to 98% uniformity. So in many ways, there's more conformity and unity than there was when Bill Clinton was president.
Yeah.
I mean, when Barack Obama was president, I'm doing this. I think there was 11 senators from 9 states that he lost. So voting with Obama had its cross current with your state politics. So there's a lot more conformity
Yeah.
and unity. That's one. Two, on the policy side, I would also argue, I mean, as new Democrats, more moderate, our critique of the system is not different than the progressives' critique of the system, being
No.
that it's rigged against people.
We all appreciate how fundamentally rigged and broken it is for the vast majority of people, and that we have to build an economy and a tax system that rewards hard work. Like we all agree
Yes.
on that. The question is, what does that look like, and are there public-private partnerships? To your point, I also think there's a difference and a gap on public safety, and I think people really do expect their leaders to be
Yes.
serious about keeping them safe. And yeah,
Greg, breaking news. Ready?
yeah,
Shh. People like order versus disorder.
yeah. I
That
just
that
that
that should not come as a shock to anybody in the caucus or your constituents prefer order. I saw a thing the other day. How much do you think a home that Amazon does, a tiny home that has a kind of a bathroom, etc., a bedroom, but
I'm gonna say 40.
10? I was like, all of a sudden, my old mayor jeans, like, what are you kidding me?
I know.
And so there's a lot that can be done and kind of like building and providing both this, you'd have more resources for the support part of the ending homelessness, whether it's treatment, job training, etc. But the shelter piece,
Yeah,
uh-uh. We spend way more than you need to. And trust me, that tiny home, still better than a car and better than a tent.
yeah.
Much improved. All right.
Hey, thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
You got great ages for your kids, man.
14, 16.
Congratulations. Oh, God, that's a great
Yeah,
age.
yeah.
That's a great
Yeah.
age. The truth is, all ages are great. Mazel tov.
Thank you.